Daniel Tiger is one of the coolest characters on TV, and that makes him a target for being copied by lots of cartoons. But do you actually know the characters that were inspired by the little tiger? Georgie. Yes, that's right, we're talking about George Pig, Peppa's little brother. This character is heavily inspired by the little tiger, and anyone who knows both shows already realizes that. George is a little piglet who, just like Daniel, still has a lot to learn. Since both of them are so young and immature, they often lose their patience. How many times have you seen George cry because he lost his toy or threw a tantrum the same way Daniel does? In one Peppa episode, George tries to steal the TV remote from his sister even though it was her turn to watch, which shows how he didn't know how to behave. Meanwhile, in Daniel Tiger's neighborhood, the main character got mad because Elena sat on the bench he wanted even though she got there first. Do you see how similar these two characters are? The only real difference is that Daniel talks a lot, while George only says a few words. And if you want to chat with us about this topic, grab your popcorn, because another Cinewave is about to begin. The creator. You might be wondering how we know that all the characters on our list are based on Daniel Tiger, but the answer is simple. The truth is that the little feline is inspired by a super old TV show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. This show aired back in 1970, more than 50 years ago. That's a long time, right? And that's why, even if some of the cartoons on our list are older than Daniel, we still know where all the ideas originally came from. In other words, even though Daniel Tiger's Neighborhood started in 2012 and Peppa Pig hit TV in 2004, it's correct to say George Pig is inspired by Daniel because everything that gave birth to Daniel is way older. Hoggy. There's an animated series called Plim Plim, which premiered on TV in 2011. In this story, you meet a character named Hoggy, a grumpy little piglet who loves to go against everyone else. Hoggy's personality is very similar to Daniel Tiger's. Both are little boys who love to have fun and play, but it seems like they have problems when it comes to sharing things. Another thing they have in common is that Hoggy has a saxophone, a wind instrument that's almost like a trumpet. But why are we bringing that up? Well, anyone who loves Daniel Tiger knows what that means. Daniel Tiger loves trumpets. Do you see how this was done on purpose? Both characters are immature, get upset easily, and love similar musical instruments. Yep, we really did find another piglet who was inspired by Daniel. Ho-Ho. There's a Nickelodeon cartoon called Ni Hao Kai Lan from 2008, and in this story we meet Ho-Ho, a super bad-tempered little monkey who can even get violent and needs to learn how to control his anger, just like Daniel. First of all, if you doubt that Ho-Ho is a bizarre version of Daniel, let's show you a scene. One day, when the monkey wasn't getting anything he wanted, he went up to Rintu, who interestingly enough is a tiger, and punched his poor friend. Of course, this was made as a reference, with Ho-Ho hitting a tiger to poke fun at the creators of Daniel. If you remember Daniel's show, you know he also tried to act mean like that once. It's pretty amazing how different cartoon series seem to know each other, isn't it? But in Ho-Ho's case, he's worse than Daniel, because the monkey is truly violent at times, while Daniel manages to control himself. Like that day when he got really mad at his little sister Margaret because she knocked down his toy fence, and Daniel tried to hit her, but thankfully, he managed to realize that was wrong. Would you like to be friends with Daniel? Drop a comment with #Tiger so we can get to know ya! Angelica. Do you know Rugrats? That's one of the coolest cartoons from Nickelodeon's golden age, and in this story we meet Angelica Pickles. This girl is actually a lot like Daniel Tiger, but before we get into that, it's important to remember that Angelica is often seen as a villain. But what does that have to do with Daniel? Relax, the little tiger isn't a mean kid, and neither is Angelica. The truth is, both of these characters sometimes misbehave because they need to learn what it means to be a good person. That's why their parents teach them lessons, and in the same way, fans of the show also learn valuable things. Because of that, Angelica has done some bad stuff too, like kicking her own uncle because she wanted candy. Can you see Daniel in that kind of behavior? Of course you can, but don't worry, both the little tiger and the blonde girl from Rugrats are good kids at heart, and that's what really matters. Pocoyo. Pocoyo is one of the most famous cartoons in the world, and the main character is also inspired by Daniel Tiger. Here are some of the similarities between them. Just like the little tiger, Pocoyo is a curious little boy, loves to play, and uses his imagination in his games. Each of them has a younger sister. Margaret for Daniel, and Bee is Pocoyo's little sister. In both shows, the boys learn important things like how to behave properly and even how to clean up trash the right way. Both of them are curious and is always seen as cute, but Pocoyo, just like Daniel, has trouble sharing his things and can sometimes act mean. Like that time he built a wall between himself and his friend Pato just because they fought over a silly toy. These two little boys have a lot in common, don't you think? Franklin. A cartoon that premiered on TV in 2011 called Franklin and Friends is very similar to Daniel Tiger, but this time we're talking about turtles. The main character of this series loves to play. But what would be the similarities between the two main characters? Let's start with the fact that they both loved blue stuffed animals. Pretty specific, right? But it's true. Daniel Tiger has his favorite toy, Tygo, a blue stuffed tiger. But if you're going to be surprised when you find out that Franklin the turtle has a stuffed dog named Sam, and guess what, he's blue too. But Franklin, unlike Daniel, isn't a kid who misbehaves. The little turtle boy also learns a lot and gets upset sometimes. Even so, you could say that in this case, Franklin is a bit more grown up than the little tiger, and still, the two are very much alike. Little Bear. Little Bear is one of those cartoons that really resembles Daniel Tiger. We're talking about two little boys who premiered on TV in different eras, but as we've already explained, Daniel Tiger is based on a very old TV program. Little Bear is a boy who, just like Daniel, gets upset very easily, like when he thought his mom had forgotten his birthday and decided to throw a party by himself. Of course, in the end, he learned that moms never forget things like that. It's very similar to Daniel, who always needs to realize that parents know what they're talking about. Did you know these two characters were so alike? And did you also know that we have new videos here every single day? Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Piggly. Do you think there's another little pig who looks like Daniel Tiger? Yes, absolutely. And this time we're talking about Piggly-Winks, a cartoon that came to TV in 2003. This character is one of the most interesting because, in fact, he could be the grown-up version of Daniel Tiger. But wait, what do you mean? It's simple. The idea behind Daniel's show is to present a little boy who needs to learn what to do when facing challenges. And in Piggly's case, the entire story is narrated by him, but in his grown-up version. Piggly teaches his two grandchildren what they need to learn by telling them stories about the time when he was just a little boy. The idea is that Piggly shows all the mischief he got into, and in the end, the grandkids understand the lesson. And there are other similarities too, like the fact that Piggly also has a younger sister named Molly. That's why we say Piggly is the adult version of Daniel, because the tiger learned so many amazing lessons that one day he's going to be a super wise grandpa, just like the piglet. Caillou. Now let's talk about a cartoon that both today's kids and those from long ago know very well, Caillou. This series has two versions, one from 1997 and another from 2024. Caillou is a little boy who also has a younger sister, Rosie, just like Margaret is Daniel Tiger's little sister. And are these two characters alike? Yes, you can bet on it. There's an episode in both versions of Caillou that shows this really well, when Mom asks the boy to take care of his sister Rosie, and the little girl grabs the pen he was using to draw. Caillou is also a kid who doesn't like to share his things with his sister, just like Daniel gets annoyed when Margaret grabs Tygo to play with. It's pretty cool when we see that the same Caillou episode exists in both versions, the old one and the new one. It seems like making shows that resemble Daniel Tiger is always a success, right? Blue's Clues. Blue's Clues is a Nickelodeon cartoon that so many people know. It also has older and newer versions. This series is very inspired by Daniel Tiger, and one of the proofs is that the creator of the Blue Puppy show is the same as the creator of Daniel's Adventures. Can you believe it? Her name is Angela Santomero, and she's the one responsible for bringing both of these shows to television. On top of that, Blue is a puppy who, just like Daniel, gets upset when she can't find what she needs. But one difference is that the Blue character actually has a real human friend, while all of Daniel's friends are cartoon characters. Other than that, the two shows are very similar. Do you like Blue's Clues? Tell us in the comments. Super Y. Speaking of Angela Santomero, there's another cartoon created by her that's very similar to Daniel Tiger. Super Y, a cartoon that's practically the same. Daniel Tiger takes place in a fantasy neighborhood, while Super Y is an adventure set in the world of fairy tales. Daniel talks to the audience, and so does Super Y. You can already tell the two shows are super similar, right? In every story of both series, the main character has to overcome a challenge, and the fact that both were created by the same person is proof that Daniel Tiger heavily inspired Super Y. Do you know what else is proof of fun? Our channel. That's why we picked 2 more videos for you to choose from. We'll see you in the next video. See you soon!